Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Take your seat. For the record, you are called Rebecca Miano, AGH. Use the mic.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
My name is Rebecca Miano, EGH.
Good. Welcome to this Committee of the National Assembly, Committee on Appointments, to vet you or have approval hearings to assess your suitability, to recommend to His Excellency the President to appoint you to the position of Minister, Cabinet Secretary for the Tourism and Wildlife Ministry. This committee is a committee of the National Assembly, and I'm the chairman. On my right is the Deputy Speaker, Gladys Boss. My left is the Clerk of the National Assembly, Samuel Njoroge. I'll invite members to quickly introduce themselves.
Naisula Lesuda, MP Samburu West.
Kimani Shongo.
Nelson Koech.
David Kosing.
Gikaria David Nakruist.
Masemer.
Abdul Rahim Daud. George Gitonga Murugara.
Owen Bayer. Stephen Mule.
Dido Raso.
Mishimboko.
Rehab Mukami.
Caleb Amisi Saboti.
Rebecca Miano, you are one of the few with the luck to be vetted twice. We did vet you just about 2 years ago, and here you are again. We'll start in earnest by inviting you to take an oath. And the oath is on the holy books, either the Quran, the Bible, or the Hindu holy book, whichever is your faith. Which one?
I will take the Holy Bible.
The Holy Bible. So be upstanding and take the Bible in your right hand and recite the oath.
I, Rebecca Miano, do swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee on the matter under its consideration shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you. You may sit and sign to the oath. If you have your documents, as you should, you'll give them to the sergeant to pass them on to the clerk to cross-check with what we have in our possession. And when we are done with you, you leave with your original documents. In just under 5 minutes, Rebecca, for purposes of these proceedings, members will be referring to you, including myself, as nominee. So nominee, tell the committee your name, your educational background, your work experience, and your key competences that make you suitable for being recommended to take up the appointment for which you have been proposed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and honorable members. My name is Rebecca Miano, the nominee for the docket of Tourism and Wildlife. I am a lawyer by profession, having graduated from the University of Nairobi, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya of good standing, I have been able to do leadership trainings at Harvard University, at the IP3, and many others. I am an alumni of Strathmore University and Navarra University, Spain. I am also a certified PPP expert, having obtained that at the IP3 Institute. I have been trained on advanced negotiation skills and also a member of the Fast Forward Premium Leadership Group that consists of leaders in Kenya. Mr. Chairman, over time, in my workstations, I have ended up in the C-suite offices, the last one being a CEO for 5 years. And in that docket, I acquired critical skills in terms of leadership, in terms of managing organizations, their operations, finance, strategies, and I'll hasten to add that one of my strengths is strategy formulation, the discipline of execution and follow-through, and to rally teams towards work plans so that we can deliver on the mandate that we have been given as a team. I have been a legal advisor with experience of over 30 years, handling all matters legal, overseeing litigation, commercial transactions. I am very conversant with the international financing models, having negotiated financing for many infrastructure projects. Mr. Chairman, I was later then appointed or sworn in as a cabinet secretary after vetting by this committee, and I took over the docket of East Africa Community, and thereafter, after a reshuffle, I moved to the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry. In those dockets, I have come to get a deep understanding of the operations of government, the strategy and the manifesto that is being implemented. And Mr. Chairman, I feel that the competencies I have, which I have described, that is academic qualification, managerial and leadership, the technical skills, all those have gone a long way to hone me and prepare me for even another docket.
I will now invite the Deputy Speaker to be the first to go to ask you. And your answer should be concise and precise.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mine are really not questions, but something that issues that have been raised with the hotel industry that we'd like some assurance should you be approved that you will undertake. The hotel industry is complaining that the classification or star rating of hotels was last done 6 years ago. If we approve you, will you ensure that that is done in the quickest time possible, because it's making it difficult to attract tourism? Also, there is the issue of Airbnb accommodation that has caused some security challenges, and this one will require an answer. What will you do, if approved, to ensure that the Tourism Regulatory Authority has the ability to do it, or the vision you have to do that, since it's an emerging market? And lastly, the two funds, the Tourism Fund and the Tourism Promotion Fund, what can they do to support the tourism parastatal so they can execute their mandate? Thank you.
Go ahead and respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. On the question of classification, it is indeed very important that hotels are classified, because then they give them world-class practice. We know that world over, classification of hotels is a necessity. And besides that, it is a requirement of the East Africa community that hotels are classified. And back here in Kenya, if we do not do that, then our guests and the occupants will be left to classify it for themselves, which will then distort the pricing, which will distort the classes. And if I am approved, I will undertake to conclude the work that is pending on classification so that we have an objective classification system that has integrity and that will enable our hotels compete globally and even maybe be included in some of the chains because of the classification. We know that if you do not classify yourself, you find other people classifying you. And I know that if we look at the world best practice, we cannot leave our hotels without classification. It is true, and I have been briefed as I met the industry, as I met the ministry. This has been pending for the last 5 to 6 years, and indeed, this will be an imperative. It will be a priority in case I am approved to take that docket. The next question was on Airbnb. My view, Mr. Speaker, is that the case of Airbnbs is a classic example where an industry is overtaken by the growth of the industry. And I will not hesitate to say, because we have research institutions, research organizations dealing with tourism, they must be on top of the game with what is happening, the contemporary changes, so that as a country, we keep up, we foresee, we prepare ourselves. When I look at the Airbnbs, we are lagging behind as a country, as a region. We are trying to catch up, trying to avoid and maneuver issues that come up. And therefore, that being the case, if approved, I will ensure that this is also a priority so that in consultation with the other arms of governments, with other ministries that have a stake on this, we finalize the strategy, the regulations, any legislative and policy agenda that is required, so that we tidy up that space that is currently untidy, getting into security issues and all manner of things. The third question is on tourism fund taken together with the tourist promotion fund. The tourist fund is the one that funds, the one that collects levies in the hotel industry, previously the catering levy, and the tourism promotion fund is the one that collects levies from travel, international travel, and local travel, and there is a specific amount of money that then is attached to the two levies. Mr. Chairman, I have looked at the information and I have been taken through. I believe that these funds give resources that should catapult the tourism sector, the hotel industry, so that Kenya is able to compete. Mr. Chairman, if you look at the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, and I was reading the manifesto, it recognizes that the tourism sector is one of the key sectors, but it is, Kenya currently is punching below its weight. So that's a description of what we have as the tourism sector. A lot has been done, but we are still punching below our weight as a country. If you look at the numbers, Mr. Chairman, With a population of 55 million and counting, and our tourist data of about 2 million to 2.3 million visitors, that confirms that Kenya is punching below the weight. Many countries that have succeeded in tourism actually are now getting more visitors than residents, or the ratio is a little better than we are seeing in Kenya. But the contradiction that I see is that Kenya is a destination that is much better than many other destinations that are attracting very many tourists. The Creator has endowed Kenya with the weather, natural resources, people who are hospitable, and many, many other tourist attractions. But then we are still punching below the weight. So these two funds should then be structured in a way that it addresses this burning platform. I'll call it a burning platform because it is urgent. It is something we need to do. And as a country, this tourism sector will be the one that will take Kenya, among the ones that will take Kenya to the next level. And therefore, we will structure, we will organize so that the fund is able to fund the critical priority activities that are required to develop and promote tourism.
Majority Leader, you have any question?
She has said what I would have asked in her preamble. I have no question.
Minority Leader? Okay. Naisula?
Honorable Miano, leadership requires that you're not only seen or heard, but your leadership must be felt by the legacies that one leaves wherever they have been. So very briefly, just mention two things that you have left as a legacy in the two dockets that you previously held in a short period of time, 2 years. What can you say are those two things? And what is the legacy you will want to leave in the docket you will hold if this committee and the National Assembly approves you? Lastly, having worked as the CS of East Africa Community, do you consider Kenya to be competitive in its tourism? There's one day I landed at JKIA. I was so happy because there were so many people from the international community who had landed at JKIA. And I was like, wow, all these people are going to Masai Mara, to the coast, or somewhere else. But then when we got to where we branch, the locals go, and those ones who are on transit, they all went to the transit. I don't know where they were going. So please tell us whether we're actually competitive as a country.
We'll take another. Nelson?
Thank you. Madam Miano, Masai Mara Game Reserve. The wildebeest migration is one of the 8 wonders of the world. There's a lot of activity, human activity, that is happening in the Masai Mara Game Reserve. I'm sure you've visited and you've noticed the hoteliers there have complained of a lot of human activity. The other one is the county government of Narok recently arbitrarily increased the entry fee into the park, which has sent so many of the tourists out to Tanzania's Serengeti. What we want to do to reverse the trend?
Go ahead and answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the two things that I can say I'm proud of, I have achieved in the two dockets that I have served, in the East Africa community, arid and semi-arid lands, I am glad that we managed to make Kenya a strong partner, and our participation was visible. Because of that, we were able to resolve many non-tariff barriers so that we could have products from Kenya being taken to other countries. I remember the case of juices in Tanzania and other products. So that is one. And then the participation last year in May, public participation for the East African Confederation Constitution. Kenya was among the first countries to finalize the public participation. We went around the country explaining about the Confederation, while at it, a good appreciation across of what the East Africa community is, the positioning of Kenya and the benefits. Under the arid and semi-arid lands docket, I took that docket or that department when we were at the worst drought in Kenya that had not been seen over the last 40 years. We were able to put strategies to manage, glad that we did not lose human lives. I remember, Mr. Chairman, that every time we had a cabinet meeting, the drought, arid and semi-arid lands being a contemporary issue, I always had a brief. I always brought together the whole of cabinet and government to appreciate what is happening, and I learned the power of communication, the power of disseminating information so that everyone can rally together, especially when there is a crisis or when we are facing trouble. The question on whether Kenya is a competitive destination, my response is that we can do better. And Mr. Chairman,
Sorry, the Ministry of Trade, you were there for almost a year.
thank you very much. In the Ministry of Trade, I am very happy that for the 7 to 8 months that I was there, we were able to register significant and tangible results. We hastened the conclusion of the European Union Economic Partnership Agreement. We took it through the process of ratification. We signed it. And right now, there is a process to disseminate the information across the counties in partnership with the industry so that the country can appreciate the opportunities that are available in this great market covering 26 European countries, and it will be quota-free, duty-free. We were able to achieve that. Mr. Chairman, we have managed to create a robust relationship and participation with the private sector, round tables to discuss issues. And based on that, I was appointed to chair the Business Reforms Action Plan with a timeline of 3 months. We met many stakeholders. We have a catalog, a whole menu of what issues are ailing industry, especially regarding the cost of doing business. I submitted the action plan to the cabinet. We then distilled it, and each ministry right now has a list of issues that they need to address if we are to strengthen investment, trade, and industries. And it was a very good document which can even form the backbone of what the government should address to create a conducive work environment. But finally, the global stage. We were able to have trade and business forums in various countries where we showcased Kenya as an investment destination. And I saw the rankings that were released in the last few months. Kenya was rated as the best destination for investment in 2024. We attracted a lot of startup capital, much more than our contemporaries in Africa. And we have quite a significant number of rankings. And if you recall, something that touches on tourism, a renowned travel agent from America did announce that Nairobi is the best city to visit in 2024, beating Montreal, Paris, and all the other cities. And so we have significant work that is going on, and I'm sure that my successor will find a lot of systems already going, and it will just be plug and play. On the question of competitiveness of our tourism sector, Mr. Chairman, I would say that we have room for improvement. And the reason I say this, competitiveness is measured not only in terms of monetary value, but what services go with it and what products that we have. We know that for a long time, Kenya has been known for its beaches and safaris, what we call beach and bush. But the endowment we have in this country requires that we have diversification of products. We have heritage attractions. We have cultural, sports, and many other things that we can cement and package. If you look at the monetary bit of the competitiveness, local tourism does seem to suggest that we are not very competitive. Our local tourism is still very low. We have not managed to convince the population that tourism is not only for visitors arriving from other countries, but we can do better in local tourism. But when you start that discussion, many Kenyans feel the hotels are expensive, other tourist attractions are expensive, and therefore there is quite a lot of room for us to position Kenya and rethink our strategies so that we are competitive in terms of monetary, in terms of product, in terms of service, and everything else that goes with tourism, including digitalization and many other things that contribute to the competitiveness. Mr. Chairman, on the question of Masai Mara, and this is one of the wonders of the world. We have seen the uniqueness. I don't think there is such a park in the world. And we are glad that Kenya has that. But we are having quite a lot of challenges in terms of the numbers, in terms of the services. As I was preparing to appear before this committee, Mr. Chairman, I did meet with the ministry officials, I did meet with the sector, and had a discussion with Narok County. And I want to share with you the information I gathered, that there was a strategy, tourism strategy 2021-2025, that was formulated with the participation of all the stakeholders. Some of the findings in that strategy and that work that was done is that there are things that needed to be done to make Masai Mara more competitive. And one of the proposals that I will discuss is that the rates for Masai Mara had not been increased for the last 15 years, despite the cost of managing the parks, despite many other costs coming up, operations and maintenance. And the stakeholders in that strategic discussions did recommend that there should be a review of the rates that are applicable so that there are enough finances to develop Masai Mara, to maintain it, to modernize it, and do all that appertains to make it more sustainable. These rates, the revised rates, were to be implemented and were actually implemented from January 2024. But to clarify that the new rates that were implemented were actually slightly lower than what the strategic plan had recommended. And therefore, the rates were implemented from January 2024. The data that I have seen is that Masai Mara in this high season has been up to 90% full and counting. And Mr. Chairman, I tried to check empirical data to show or to prove that tourism have shifted elsewhere. We do not have that empirical data yet. This reporting gained momentum a few weeks ago despite the increment having been done in January. But what I'll say, if approved and I assume office, I will equip myself with the right information, the right data to have an informed decision and announce to the country the correct data so that we are not having a reporting that is disadvantaging Kenya and maybe it is not correct, so that I'll promise to have accuracy and a strategic direction going forward.
Thank you, nominee.
Just as a point so that you note, let's be very careful. I get the feeling that they have actually captured you in your communication. Narrow County collects a lot of money from those parks. There's nothing to show for it. In fact, you shouldn't have gone to the ministry to fact find. You should have done it independently. The fact that you went back to the same ministry to ask, I can tell you for sure they are colluding. Just take your own independent research and find out exactly what is happening in the Masai Mara Park.
There's a comment. Posing, anything? Kikaria?
Chairman, recently I've seen so many transfers of game reserves, national parks, from the national government to the management of counties.
How many apart from Amboseli?
Okay, let me say that one, Amboseli. Now, is there a policy guideline on how these transfers should be done? And I'm saying this in line of whether, like transferring Hell's Gate or Lake Nakuru, for purposes of the county, giving license to fishermen in Lake Nakuru, which is a very big business that is being done illegally. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, nominee, let's take one more, probably two more, and try and give short answers, short and clear. Mary?
Thank you, Chairman. Mine is also one and very short. And I'm picking it from the statement from the nominee that Kenyans feel hotels are expensive. And I can't agree with you. I agree with you totally. Hoteliers have expressed concerns over the multiplicity of taxes, including tourism levy, housing levy, VAT, NSSF, income tax, PAYE, NHIF, trade license for counties, and
meter.
You
yes,
have to add now
yes.
operating expenses where they must invest heavily on marketing, on technology for them to get guests into these hotels. So if you are successful nominee, what plans do you have to ease this burden? Do you foresee the likelihood of merging some of these taxes and levies as an incentive to investors? Thank you.
Dawood?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is the compensation of wildlife cases. This is a comment. You need to, if you are confirmed, you need to look at it because it has stayed a long time and the paperwork is not the best. But what I want you to look at, the first thing is Section 35(2) of the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act, it needs to be relooked vis-a-vis the county governments. Because in Meru, and I believe it may have happened somewhere else, the county government went and demolished one of the lodges in the park. And apparently, they have to pay more than 300 to 400 million, and it's a foreign investor who has been there for long. So what kind of investors will come if those things are being done?
Nominee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Wildlife Management Act actually stipulates and spells the role of the two levels of government, the county governments and the national government. And on the issue of transfer of national parks, I am aware that there is a task force that was formed to look at these matters, the merits, the demerits, the regulations, the processes, and the procedures that will be used in case of any transfers like Amboseli and any other that may be in that category. The task force, I am informed, has finalized its work, and in the next couple of weeks, will be presenting this report, and I will be looking out at this report for my contribution, for contribution by the whole sector, so that we are able to come up with clear guidelines, clear advantages, and clear processes of how this matter of transfer of national parks should be handled. Mr. Chairman, if approved, and I get into this docket, the list of priorities is forming up and it's becoming clear, so that we have clear policy directions and guidance, and that will enable actions to move much faster and with clarity, avoiding disputes and other issues that at times derail processes, make them take much longer. And I will promise, if approved, I will be able to look at this as a priority. On hotels, licenses, and levies, there is duplicity and multiplicity of licenses and levies. In preparing for this vetting and this hearing, I came across upwards of 16 licenses and levies that apply to the hotel industry. And Mr. Chairman, this speaks to the ease of doing business, the cost of doing business. I've also come across quite a lot of work that has been done in trying to address these issues. I know that there is a bill on county licensing unified bills, and also some work that was being done by the Commission for Revenue Allocation. We will be able to finalize this work, and where applicable, merge, eradicate, and be able to consolidate some of these licenses and levies. We can use technology, but of course is in consultation with the stakeholders, including county governments, so that we support our hotels, which form one of the anchors to our tourism, so that we can develop and promote the tourism. The other question on Section 35(2) of Conservation Act, we need to work very closely with the county governments I believe that under that section, we need to come up with clear procedures that will be followed and guidelines so that we are able to attract investors that will take up the opportunities that are so much needed. We require to upgrade our infrastructure in terms of hotels and other tourist attractions, and we need a very good coexistence between the conservation areas and our tourism. The conservation areas form the backbone, and we need clarity. I have realized that many of the issues that face many industries, including the tourism industry and sector, all are due to lack of enough clarity in procedures, in regulations and processes. Mr. Chairman, if approved, just like I have done in my other assignments, I promise to bring a lot of clarity, streamline processes so that we get efficiency.
Murugara, anything? Owen?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Chair. I just want to ask one question on problem solving, another one on policy, and another one on strategy.
No.
Okay.
Either one, or at the very most two.
I will put all of them in one question. One, nominee, my question is, how will you solve the problem of the Ronald Ngala Utalii College, which was a legacy project by the late President Kibaki, but up to today, we are still waiting, and it is actually affecting the tourism sector in terms of training. Also, in the same breath, our nominee is to ask you, what is your take on the open sky policy in terms of promoting tourism, given that you need infrastructure, you need people to fly into the country, and probably you need to expand that space. And countries have benefited so much from having what would call tourism economic zones, special economic zones. And these countries have developed special economic zones specifically for tourism to ensure that tourism moves forward. As you take, if approved a nominee, how will you uptake this idea, develop special economic zones, just like you have handled special economic zones in the Ministry of Trade, but now transfer that into tourism and expand tourism so that we move to double-digit growth within the tourism sector? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for that one question.
Yes, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nominee Rebecca Miano, Kenya Kwanza regime have arbitrarily raised the cost of government services across all sectors in the recent past. And recently, they increased the park charges very, very significantly, making it, of course, expensive for local tourists and probably even discouraging some of the foreign tourists whom we have lost to our neighbors. Now, this was done, the local game charges were done despite the Committee of Delegated Legislation actually discouraging the ministry from doing it. Now, I have two questions on that. First and foremost, will you respect Parliament so that whenever you have any proposals, you have a discussion with Parliament before implementation? And the second one is, what will you do so that you can return the sector back to competitiveness? Might you consider reducing those charges? Because the increase is extremely high. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. CS nominee, Tourism, Honorable Miano. In March 2024, the Kenya Wildlife Service launched the National Human-Wildlife Coexistence Strategy Plan 2024-2033. The strategy aims at fostering a sustainable wildlife conservation while effective mitigation mitigation on human life conflict, which has been a menace in this country for most of the parks within within whereby most of the communities are living. What action plan and measures are you going to put in place to make sure that the entire national strategic plan is implemented in totality? And how do you envisage, not thinking of the normal parks we are looking at, that is Tsavo, Masai Mara. There are also other destination areas in this country which need to be opened up for new corridors to attract tourism. We want to hear that from you. I rest my case.
Go ahead and respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll go straight to the point. The questions asked by Honorable Baya on Ronald Ngala Utalii College. I am informed that the college, the infrastructural work and buildings are about 85% complete, and it is anticipated by the month of October, most of the work will be completed and intakes will start happening. I am glad that that is the information that is coming up to show that eventually the Ronald Ngala Utalii College will become operational and offer the very much needed training after many, many years. I will follow up in case I am approved to ensure that the timelines that have been given are adhered to, because I have seen a report giving those timelines. On the matter of open sky policy, I've seen a lot of discussions with the Ministry of Transport, and learning from my experience in the trade docket, we need to move away from open policies, open trade, open skies, and work on strategies of easy access, enough access, robust access. For example, for our tourism, if we are able to attract many, many more airlines from various destinations and bring our visitors and tourists to Kenya with much ease, easy accessibility, then we will not have a debate that is seemingly emotive, but be able to attract as many arrivals with ease. I'm also aware that before COVID, we had airlines that had access to some of our airports, and especially in Mombasa. I do believe there is merit in working with those so that we can have a lot more access and visitors being able to access our country, not necessarily through Nairobi, Jomo Kenyatta, but the other airports. Special economic zones is a familiar topic to me, both in the East Africa community, because in the Council of Ministers, we were able to approve the policy and strategies for special economic zones in the East Africa community, and so we have common policies. In the Ministry of Trade, I was in charge of the special economic zones. I am very well conversant with the incentives that are attached to the special economic zones. We have actualized quite a number of special economic zones as a country, and based on the policy that we have, it is envisaged that there will be various special economic zones, and then we can have sector-specific zones that accrue to it. For the tourism, I am a supporter that we should have a tourism special economic zone There is one that was gazetted in Lamu County, though not operational. To be precise, Mr. Speaker, that is the way to go. On the question of the cost of entry of the game parks and the national parks and the increase, Mr. Speaker, there was a strategy by stakeholders that recommended some of these changes. But I want to say from the word go in the affirmative, I will respect Parliament. My record speaks for itself. Whenever invited to Parliament or committees, I give it utmost priority. And if there is any compelling reason, always liaising with the committee and Parliament to be able to reschedule and get another suitable date. I have been asked whether, if approved and I take this docket, I will look at reducing these charges. My response is, I will look at all the reports so that I'm able to make an informed decision so that I do not pronounce myself today in haste, but again, it is urgent and a priority in consultation with stakeholders to put this matter to rest. Again, clarity and efficiency of policies, the robustness of them will help faster execution of the work plans and be able to move this country forward. In terms of human-wildlife conflict, yes, I'm aware that there was a strategy that was formulated.
Point of order, Honorable Chairman.
No.
Honorable Chairman, my point of order, I just want to tell our nominee that when you are going to involve the stakeholders, don't forget the local communities and the tour operator, because on this issue, they were not involved. And that is why there is a lot of outcry.
The comment, well taken. Have already mapped out the stakeholders in the tourism sector. Yes, and I want to confirm that it will be comprehensive, consultative, and leaving nobody behind.
Thank you.
Human-wildlife conflict, in terms of the strategy, Mr. Chairman, I have seen that the strategy promotes alternative sources of income so that there is not too much conflict between wildlife and human fighting for the resources. I have seen it is necessary to have fencing and just secluding the conservation areas. We need a lot of civic education and information on the coexistence between human and wildlife. On the matter of compensation, we need to streamline the procedures to make them more efficient, to improve governance so that the people affected are compensated on time, with integrity, correctly, because we do know that at times very delayed compensation does not even help the situation. And so this is one of that will be a focus area in case I am approved, together with the suggestion or the comment on attracting new corridors for the animals. And Mr. Chairman, this docket is starting to be very exciting, looking at what lies ahead, what as a country we can do to make it robust. And if there are any other manifestos or later manifestos are written, Kenya will not be punching below its weight. And that will help us to have increased our tourists, conserved our wildlife better, increased our foreign exchange earnings, created jobs, and if you imagine all the benefits that will accrue in streamlining and transforming and positioning this industry and this ministry to the position it should be, there is a lot of hope and a lot of promises in regard to this industry.
Thank you. Russell?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'll just ask one question. Madam Miano, those communities that live close to wildlife sanctuaries have suffered, but this time round, what I want to hear from you is leadership in terms of what benefits is likely to accrue to them for actually preserving that wildlife and also not interfering with the sanctuary in terms of giving them water, scouts. There are many things that I'm sure those communities would want, not just the fence that will protect them. Maybe I will just want a comment from you. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Honorable Chairman, you know I come from Coast Region where tourism is, so I need to ask some few questions. Honorable Chairman, you know Kenyans have lost some hope in terms of this docket.
I will allow you to.
Only two I'll do. Yeah, Kenyans have really lost some hope on this docket. In fact, when the cabinet secretaries were dismissed, Kenyans were just saying that at least now maybe we'll have somebody who's going to have a zeal and will be ready to do some reforms. And for me, I want to ask Rebecca Miano, what kind of intervention, which are immediate and short-term, so that you can give hope to Kenyans to see that something is being done. Chairman, I'm just looking at something like Mombasa Beach Hotel. And during your time, I know you used to go to Mombasa Beach many times, and that was the best beach hotel, and it is under government. But today, even with the state officer, civil servant, go for meetings, go for conferences, you just see about Serena, White Sands, Priding. What is happening? This Mombasa Beach is really dilapidated. It is like, I don't know what is it. In fact, one of these few days, I have to negotiate with the government so that I can buy this hotel and I revamp it. Because I've seen the government is not seeing that. That is what I'm asking. Those immediate intervention that you are going to do so that Kenyans will have some hope on that. My last question is about Mama Ngina waterfront. Mama Ngina waterfront used to be a cultural and heritage site, and it used to be under the municipality of Mombasa and then county of Mombasa. Now this site has been taken back to Nairobi, and it's been managed by people from Nairobi. So what are you telling the community around Coast Region from Mombasa County about this issue? What is your take? Don't you see that you have to give us back to the county this site so that we can do more and more to attract tourists? Thank you, Honorable Chairman.
Rahab, do you have anything? You'll pass. Ramisi?
Mr. Speaker, I have some information have been sent by a senior citizen on touching on nominees' credibility. So I'm requesting if you allow me to read, maybe she can respond or clear the air, though maybe it's not part of our records. If you don't, then I go to my question. Do you allow me to read? Okay. So, Honorable Speaker, Kenya, rich heritage. From where I sit, I don't think that is fetching from the world tourism market. When you see government officials visit on benchmarking, they'll go to Thailand, Dubai, European states from the historical sites. And then they just wow at the tourism attractions elsewhere in China, and they come and sit. Tourism in the modern times has gone through a lot of innovations. There are different sustainability measures on the tourism. But in this country, we are just on Masai Mara, coast beaches, and all that. If you look at the statistics on why people go to Singapore, for example, they don't have all those natural resources that we do. But it's about innovation, modernizing tourism. That is some aspect that I have not seen in this ministry. We are on the traditional, tired, we are not innovating on it. What is these new things we are going to see from your ministry going forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Nominee, you can answer Honorable Mishi and Amisi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will start with a question on the arid and semi-arid lands. I served as minister in the arid and semi-arid lands, and therefore very well conversant with the issues, the benefits, the challenges that face the arid and semi-arid lands. Happy to note that most of the animals, the wild animals, 70%, actually almost 90% are found in the arid and semi-arid lands. 70% of the livestock, most tourist attractions, conservancies, and this is one of the frontiers of development in this country. And having worked in that ministry, the policies that we were putting in place, discussing with all stakeholders, and especially development partners, of how to shift the conversations from the traditional conversations of how to support these areas in terms of drought, but to bring real development and have contribution to GDP much more improved. But on some of the strategies and actions that I will take, because I believe the communities must benefit, is to offer leadership in the conversations and discussions about benefits sharing of the resources that are found in those areas, increased economic benefits, development of infrastructure, benefits in terms of security, and even other alternative sources of incomes and activities, working together with the relevant ministries, the Ministry of ESC, Ministry of Water, Agriculture, a whole of government approach. We continue giving a focus on the potential of the arid and semi-arid lands, because these are lands that are very well endowed with resources and many other advantages. On the question of the coast, Mr. Chairman, our coast area is a jewel. We have not scratched the surface yet. The potential there is able to move our tourism to levels that we can only imagine. The beaches, the culture, and other exotic tourist products that we have are all found at the coast. The cruises and many other attractions. I want to commit that working together with the counties, we should work on identifying the niche tourist attractions, be able to form a circuit of the coastal counties so that when our visitors come, they have a full experience, be able to take advantage of what our coast has to offer. We need to have good infrastructures, our hotels in good order, more investments in hotels and other tourist infrastructure. We continue to make our coast area as a premier and best tourist destination in Kenya. We know that we also have some cultural sites We have seen the Mama Ngina. And Mr. Chairman, to respond to the honorable member on the issue of Mama Ngina, we need to work together with the purpose of getting maximum benefits, increased tourism, increased earnings, something that will just blow that region into economic activities and to success. And therefore, reason together, consult with the counties and see the formula and the strategy that will achieve maximum benefit for this installation. May I respond to the question by Honorable Hamisi about the heritage? Again, we continue saying in terms of tourism, Kenya is punching below its weight. We have consistently focused on only a few areas or a few attractions, especially the beach and the safaris, but Kenya has a lot more to offer. The honorable member did indicate that some of the benchmarking trips go to other countries and maybe do not bring back enough information to spur and catapult our tourism sector. Mr. Chairman, there are quite a lot of things that we can take advantage of. The first one, we now know that our highest visitors and tourists are basically from the USA, followed by Uganda. And while I mention Uganda, Mr. Chairman, we used to have a lot of Ugandan citizens wanting to bring their functions at the coast, the beaches, weddings, anniversaries. But we got into a little issue with our systems and the Attorney General's office, and that has denied the country a lot of revenue that we used to have and marketing Kenya as a destination.
What was the problem? When under the East African Community, we have a protocol on free movement of people, goods, and services.
Mr. Chairman, I'll say it's a non-tariff barrier, but we will get the real issues and be able to resolve what it is and open up again this niche market of affording countries that are landlocked with opportunities to experience the beauty of the beaches and have memorable functions, anniversaries, and all that. But on the issues, on what we can do to spur our tourism, Mr. Chairman, we need to diversify the origin of our guests. We need to attract new markets, the Middle East. When I looked at the numbers, we are not getting enough visitors from some of these good destinations. The East, Japan, China, we need to diversify the source of our guests, while at the same time diversifying our products so that we can do a lot more. As I finish, Mr. Chairman, branding and communication in our tourism has to take the center stage. We must package our country as a product to be consumed, produced, packaged, sold, and consumed. And so we should not spare any effort. We need also to take advantage of innovation, technology. I have seen information that we do not have a one-stop shop digitally where tourists can visit and get all the information they need, and that will also be a priority so that we can package our country. Mr. Chairman, recently, Kenya was ranked as #1 in the world in use of social media and use of technology. If we convert such abilities and rankings to sell our country for tourism, I think we will take this world by storm and attract a lot more tourism and a lot more visitors in Kenya by marketing aggressively. And when we sort our brand visibility, our visibility index, I think we have what it takes to brand and market Kenya as a near-round destination for tourism, and not just the peak and low season.
Chair, on a point of order.
Yes, sorry, yes.
On a point of order, Chair, because I missed the opportunity to ask a question earlier, but from what now CS Miano is saying, she's elicited a question from me. You have severally repeated that we are punching below our weight as a country in matters tourism. And you've said branding and communication is what will take our tourism to where we want it to be. You've also asserted that we can use alternative media like social media. You said you are ranked #1 in use of social media.
Yes.
So members asking, is it use or misuse? And from what I hear, Honorable, and by asking, it's actually use of social media, not misuse. But it could also be misconstrued as misuse depending on how it's used. I want you to focus on the positive use of social media. And now that you are saying we are punching below our weight, how then, as a cabinet secretary, are you going to leverage on that strength by young Kenyans? One, to create employment for them in terms of using, and I'm thinking about content creators, to positively use their time on social media to market our country and make an earning for themselves, and also in branding and communication. And may I also put it to you that, and I have in mind a question I had asked to the nominee who was here before you in the ministry, that you are in trade and industry, that you failed the people of Kenya in communication when you are Minister for Trade and Industry. And I said that in view of the good things that you know of that were supporting our manufacturing sector in the finance bill, but we never saw your ministry anywhere communicating to Kenyans the positives that came with that finance bill. Are you telling the people of Kenya that we will now continue punching below our weight in terms of communicating, or will you, finance bill, Junet wants to say that finance bill is treasury. Far from it. It is an omnibus bill that included a whole package of very positive things that the CS nominee knows on matters to do with manufacturing. So I was asking, will you be punching below our weight again in tourism? Because it's true what you say, tourism is about branding, communication. Why would a country, a small country like Rwanda, be beating us in terms of branding and communication and advertising around the world?
I take
Chairman, Chairman, this is...
Sorry, Chair, I said let me withdraw the country. I don't want to get into trouble. Smaller countries and smaller economies than ours.
Chairman, this is linked to what Honorable Ishungo said. And I just want to say that Kenya is renowned for its exceptional athletes who compete on the international stage. If appointed, how do you plan to leverage their achievements to promote Kenya as a premier tourist destination? And, what strategies would you implement to integrate sports marketing? There is sports marketing with tourism promotion to enhance our global reputation and attract more visitors. We have seen a cabinet secretary in the past use an international figure to market Kenya, while we have our athletes and we also have sports who can be used to market our country. Also, they are known, Honorable Junet, and they can run. Secondly, tourism benefits often do not reach marginalized communities, including indigenous groups and people living in rural areas. How will you ensure that tourism development is inclusive and that these communities receive fair benefits from tourism activities? And lastly, just on that, tourism can sometimes lead to the commercialization or misrepresentation of local cultures. For example, the Maasai culture, Samburu culture, is often showcased in tourism marketing materials, but there are concerns that their culture is sometimes presented in a stereotypical or superficial manner, and some people using their photographs without their consent and making money out of them, and also respond to the issue of e-citizen when we use it to pay money at the parks. Is it that Kenyans, we are slow to accept change and technology, or was it implemented without good communication and without testing it first whether it works?
Chair, if I just a quick one. 1 minute.
You've had your share.
1 minute.
But we still have
Chair,
two more.
you are allowing this
Order.
to ask
Then
many
everybody will
questions.
talk.
Speaker, that is Speaker, don't open that door, please.
From our electorates.
Yes, Owen.
Yeah.
Chair, I thought we had agreed one question per person.
Let
I also had three.
This is important. This is
But I
important.
chose to
Owen,
think about the
order,
order.
members. Owen.
There, Honorable Speaker,
The only person who has had a second bite is Naisula, and from what I saw, she was reading some rehearsed statement from somewhere.
yes.
From the members of the public.
We have
Kenyans.
questions from the
Chair,
public.
the nominee has spoken, Albaro, almost everything in tourism, except one thing which she must tell us how well prepared she is about. Tourism is very sensitive to security. And the decline of tourism in Kenya is associated with insecurities that happened, especially at the coast, in Lamu and other places that affected tourists. What is your plan to secure the tourism fold in terms of ensuring that tourism? And then the aspect of the tourism police is now hindering the development of tourism. How will you handle that? Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, I just wanted to ask about Ushanga Initiative because it's underfunded, and that is a program for the Asar area. And I expect Naisura to ask that question because those women, they normally get that money so that we can empower them, but they are not getting any money.
Thank you.
Chairman, I have a question from a Gen Z. I have a question from a Gen Z, Honorable Chairman. I want to read it. In early 2024, a lobby group filed a petition at the High Court accusing Miano of spending Kenya shilling 94 billion of taxpayers' money on ineffective power generating projects during her time as CEO of Kenya Electricity. This accusation included commissioning unusable high voltage transmission lines and conducting feasibility studies for 2 new power plants that never became operational. What is your take, Honorable nominee from a Gen Z?
Chair, the last one from the public to Honorable Miano. I've just received a message whereby the public is asking, are you going to continue?
Why are you breaking the protocol we have been following?
I'm sorry, Chair.
The chairman has been reading the public.
Okay.
Then when I finish, you compliment. Now everybody's jumping in. What are you doing, you guys?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Chair, may I respond to this because they are becoming quite many?
Let it finish. It started.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies. The public is asking, as a nominee for tourism, are you going to continue using the conventional way of marketing Kenya, or what is your take on how you'll rebrand the country and forget those odd methods of branding the country?
She already said she will use social media beyond the conventional marketing tools. Can you answer the ones that... and concisely and precisely, no speeches, just answer the questions.
Mr. Chairman, let me start with a question by Majority Leader, Honorable Kimani, about the branding, but start to clarify that punching below its weight as a country is documented in the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. And that is where I am coming from, which is a reality. And then you asked about the use of social media and how we can leverage on what we have seen as abilities, innovations, energies, and new ideas from our youth. Looking at some of the infographics, looking at the content that our innovative and energetic young people have done or can do, I believe this is an area that we can take advantage of. I've seen occasionally people taking a lot of time having consultancies when we have a youth that can turn around material, that can turn around content, that can be used. I will be taking it up with the ministry and see how we can accommodate this creativity towards increasing our branding and our marketing. And I think together with the private sector, we can use the positive social media to position our country and showcase it out there. In terms of communication, I want to confirm that some of the proposals that we had made as a ministry to promote local manufacturing, to stop unnecessary imports of what can be produced locally. We had endless meetings with the industry, with the manufacturers. We had discourses and discussions, and eventually we had a convergence on what we need to do. I want to confirm that we had enough consultation and enough communication in that regard. In terms of athletes, Mr. Chairman, the question asked by Honorable Naisula, it's very special that we have our athletes who is a pride of Kenya. We can position them as our tourism brand ambassadors, working with them in the countries that they go, so that while there, we can showcase what Kenya has to offer. We can come up with marketing material and content to convince the world you will not have lived until you go to the home of athletes that is called Kenya, to just experience their talent, their brevity, their courage, and just find out what it is that makes them stand out, what makes them sweep the Kenyan stage. And I agree, it is a very niche market for tourism. On development and benefits of some of the marginalized communities, like I responded in the earlier questions, it's to ensure that there is fair sharing of benefits, that their cultures are respected. We should explore opportunities to even have intellectual property rights so that we can respect and safeguard the usage of the cultures that those communities have to offer. I believe they need to benefit in terms of the ripple effects of tourism, offer economic activities, offer employment, so that it is a win-win situation in the country. In terms of e-citizen, we are aware, and even as I was preparing, there is information to show that there is quite a lot of improvement needed, and especially even in tourism. I got information that occasionally when paying, especially as a foreigner or for services, it takes long, it may not be clear, but I'm aware that there is a lot of work going around to strengthen and to streamline the e-citizen platform, and I believe this will be one of our quick wins because it is digital and will hasten and make it efficient. In terms of the question about the power industry, Mr. Chairman, I do not have the actual information, and I will be ready to respond to any issues that come through, but I want to confirm I've served with diligence, a good record, and I've done what I should as the CEO or as a strong leader in the energy sector, and I'm proud of the achievements that we received. Chairman, I'll leave it there. But I also want to talk about how to refresh the Kenya brand and what...
Talk about Ushanga.
About Ushanga initiative, Mr. Chairman, this docket is in the Ministry of Heritage, Culture and Arts. They will be much better suited than myself to give comprehensive and convincing answers.
Honorable Mole's issue? It was answered?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
There was a question about security.
And tourism police and so on. Can you answer that?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Executive Order number 1 of 2023 that organized ministries, there was envisaged a creation of National Tourism Service, which has not been operationalized. And again, it will be one of those priority areas because we need to ensure that there is enough security, not only for tourists, but also for the citizens. I will also propose that we take advantage of technology, the closed circuit CCTVs for surveillance. We work with communities to disseminate matters of security, and that it is a collective responsibility for all of us, working with the relevant ministries and state departments that handle matters of safety, so that our tourists then come and get the product that they came for. Tourism is the product that sells joy and adventure, and security easily kills that reason why tourists visit. And also working together with police so that they become enablers and facilitators and do not hamper our security. We need community policing, also information to the tourists on security briefs. And I want to say that there is a lot that can be done, tangible activities to enhance security and safety in the tourism sector.
Jeanette?
Mr. Speaker.
I'm giving Jeanette because he didn't ask any question. You already asked questions. Yes, Jeanette?
No, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to say that my constituency borders the Masai Mara. So I have a lot of information from there which I wanted to share with the committee and bring to the attention of the nominee. Mr. Speaker, for example, between the Mara and Serengeti, there is a lot of interconnection. The government sometimes, I don't know whether they are serious about tourism, because there's an airstrip in Migori which was tarmacked recently. When the tourists come from Nairobi, they land in, let's say, Kichwatembo, in Mara, then they are connecting to Serengeti. Mr. Speaker, they are lifted from Serengeti, from Mara to Migori, then they disembark, they get into a bus, they go to the border in Hispania so that their passports can be stamped, then they are brought back by a bus, then they again board, then they go to immigration services only. And they are around between 5 and 10 flights every week. So sometimes I wonder whether we want to make people comfortable or we want to make their life difficult so that they disembark, go to the border, just stamp his passport so that he can go to Tanzania, then come and board, and then go to Serengeti. Madam Nominee, if this committee approves you, what do you think you can do about that? Or you have no powers over that? It's an immigration issue.
Yes, Mary?
Honorable Chairman, this is from a Kenyan, and I think it's a Kenyan from Busia. He's saying, ask Mrs. Miano when new places like the ancient rock art in Busia will be considered in the tourism circuit. I think it's helping you to boost local tourism by enlisting new ancient places or new tourism sites across the country.
Nominee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the information by Honorable Junet and undertake to consult with the Ministry of Immigration, to the Department of Immigration, because I said easy access is key to supporting tourism.
Nominee, it doesn't need any consultation. If you confirm that information is right, call your counterpart and tell him go and open a Department of Immigration at this point.
You've read my mind. I was getting there.
Yes.
Because we have to consult, we work together, and go for action.
Yes.
I'm an executor.
Good.
Yes.
And
on Busia, I agree, our counties, we need to map out the tourist attractions and what counties and regions have to offer so that we package the diversification that I so much believe in and I talked about, that we need to diversify the products that we have. I will take up not only specifically for Busia, but other sites that can help boost tourism in this country.
Nominee, I want to tell you that not once, not twice, not thrice, the ministry that you have been proposed to lead has mapped out Kenya over and over to see where new sites for tourism are. I've seen them in Bungoma, I've seen them in Trans Nzoia, I've seen them in Pokot, I've seen them everywhere. So don't reinvent the wheel. Focus on actualization and execution. That is what is required. Let me also ask you, Honorable Rebecca. You are coming into a ministry that has at one time been the highest foreign exchange earner for the country. And many, many of your predecessors, there was one who appeared before a committee such as this, chaired by my predecessor, assured parliamentarians how he's going to market tourism, how he's going to use Kenyans to market tourism, how he's going to do everything for tourism to flourish. We saw him turn up with a British citizen of African origin to market tourism in Malindi. Is that how to assist Kenyans participate in this important industry? And if you are confirmed, because tourism in Kenya is a clear highway, what is it you are going to do that is different from what the others have been doing to improve the arrivals in Kenya from the current 2.2 million to 10 million or even more? I saw the other day on BBC television, citizens in Barcelona were demonstrating, demanding that they reduce the arrivals of tourists, that there were too many. What do they go to see in Barcelona? Probably the beaches only, or Barcelona Football Club. We have wonderful game parks. We have wonderful beaches. We have wonderful wildlife everywhere. We have wonderful culture. We have scenery everywhere. What are you going to do that will be different from those who have come before you to profile Kenya as a #1 tourist destination? That's what this committee and the country wants to hear. Robust management, whatever. What is it you'll do that is different? Because those slogans, we have had them before.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tourism is a great exchange earner. Currently, it's not the first, as it should. It's #3 in exchange earning. And we have an opportunity I believe the tourism sector is easy to turn around, much easier than others that require a lot of work. Mr. Chairman, what I will do differently is to know that people support what they believe in. We must then use our citizens, use the local people, our fellow Kenyans, to take the pride of Kenya and market it ourselves. I believe if we do that, we get the patriotism, the love of our Kenya, and then we give opportunities to the people with the talent. And by the way, Mr. Chairman, all the employees in the tourism sector and hotel sector are 80% youth. That is a low-hanging fruit. If we partner with them as individuals, as corporates, as companies, and support them fully, and we tap into their creativity and their prowess, I believe if I take that trajectory, we will see numbers. And Mr. Chairman, 10 million is still below the weight of Kenya. At 55 million, we should be talking about beyond 20. And Mr. Chairman, with the support of Parliament to put the right policies and with all the stakeholders, we have a very robust private sector, development partners. We must go out there and turn around this tourism and increase numbers. I want to give you comfort that I am an executor. I'll give it my all, more than ever before, and especially because when you get a second chance, you must also double up your efforts, your delivery, and that is the reciprocation that I will owe if I am found fit and I am approved to hold this most progressive, exciting docket that can just turn around this country of ours.
Will you also consider, if you are confirmed, to revolutionize organizations like Brand Kenya? I have gone to functions out of this country, and you see a banner there, Brand Kenya. When you go there, you see wood carvings, and tea, coffee, Masai shukas, and that is all. Nothing else. And they say they're branding Kenya. We were in London last October, I think, for celebration of the 75 years of the Commonwealth. Part of the participants in the preparation was the Kenya High Commission. When we went to the opening of the event, on the list was Maasai dancers to celebrate the 75 years. Who turned up? Black men with the heavy muscles from West Africa as Maasais. And when one of our colleagues asked which part of Maasai land do you come from, they disappeared after a very poor performance. Now, you know, those misrepresentations undermine our tourism as well. Lastly, from me, we used to have, when I was in Foreign Affairs, a demand from the Ministry of Tourism to post what they call tourist attaches and trade attaches. And let me tell you how fallacious it is. And we want to know how you'll do it differently. You pick somebody from the Ministry of Tourism, probably ushered through lobbying, and you post that person to China to sell Kenya tourism. For 2 years, he's learning the language and his way around. The next 1 year, he's struggling to know where to go to market Kenya. The fourth year, his term is over, he comes back. You send another one under the same circumstances. You send somebody to Russia, same thing. You send somebody to France, same thing. What are you going to do differently to market our country in major destinations? China has more than 200 million Chinese going out as tourists every year. If you just get 2, 3 of those, you can imagine the impact on our GDP.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Just to add on what you're saying, Mr. Speaker, also it depends on when you arrive at the country. What do you see first?
Yes.
Look at the kind of airport we have. It looks like a bus park, Mr. Speaker. There's no difference between that airport and Migori bus park, where people park matatus and everything. You can't even have a parking space, Mr. Speaker. You go round and round. You don't know where to park your car. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I met an Arab in Dubai. I asked him, why are people coming here like this all the time? He told me the sheikh called the immigration and everyone who deals with visitors and told them, anyone who comes to this country is my visitor, and you must make sure that he's handled well. Mr. Speaker, it also depends on how we handle our visitors. When you're parking them in Migori bus park, how can they be happy?
So, nominee, can you give the people of Kenya an assurance that you'll act differently? Market Kenya in a different mode and different version, using different tactics and different people.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The tourist industry and some of the things we do in Kenya, we are caught in a time warp. Comfort zone, doing the same things the same way, carvings, the beach. We have not stretched our imagination. We need to stretch our imagination out of the comfort zone, come with new products, reimagine our tourism sector, rethink, refresh our brand, and that will inform some of the things we are going to do based on what Honorable Junet has said, and how we are going to position our product, how we are going to position our country to attract more tourists. It will mean getting new facilities, or at least renovating country should have. So, Chair, I will be very innovative, transformational, wanting to lead teams that are high performance, and will want to rally this vision through so that we get results. On the matter of attachés, when you described, it reminded me of my experience at the Trade Department or the Trade Ministry, and it is a time for us to get our attachés based on their skills, their qualifications, their competencies, based on what they really can bring for the country. We need to check even their linguistics so that we send the correct people. I am a believer, if you have the right teams, well equipped, with competencies, you'll be able to get much more. And this is...
On a point of order, because I think the CS nominee did not get your question. Because when I listened to you, the speaker was asking, is there a need to have a trade attaché, a tourism attaché? Why not have what you have been calling a one government approach? Whoever is at a mission has the capacity and ability, and you're able to train them on how to market tourism. Because from what the speaker was saying, the example he gave, you send someone, it takes 4 years moving around China. Why not use the ambassador in China to market Kenya, to market Kenya as a tourism destination, and even use their locals there with the branding you are talking about?
Mr. Chairman, if we get the right people, they are likely to do very well in multi-skilling. There will be no distinct or dramatic difference from an attaché who can do trade to the one who can do tourism. And I think if we combine those roles, it will be more efficient, more affordable, so long as we get the right people, a selection procedure that is fair and firm when we are getting the skills that we need, and we will not need to duplicate a Kenyan handling this, another one handling this, while one person can be very well equipped and able to deliver that service. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, she never answered my question about compensation.
Wildlife.
Yeah, human-wildlife conflicts. The forms are not right and they are not paid. 10 years down the road, we have not been paid. So please tell us what you're going to do differently.
I am aware there is a backlog on compensation. The process has started and it's picking up again. Remember, in my previous docket, I was invited for a function earlier this year, and there was a launch of the compensation. And Mr. Chairman, like I said, and I remember we discussed here that compensation that is delayed may at times not be compensatory as it should be. So in my mind, I thought I had responded to the question, but I think this is something to give priority.
Excellent.
We do know that there are fiscal constraints, but prioritizing cost containment, removing non-essentials will still afford some resources to undertake the needed compensation.
Rebecca, we are coming to an end. You had Naisula read to you what the public was asking. Mary Mase, Kami, and Mishi, and Mule. There are a few more from the public. What plans will the nominee put in place to ensure challenges of open skies are solved? I think that was asked by Owen. You don't need to answer. Somebody asked us, what are the qualifications for one to work as a tourism driver? I think that one must be. What plans will Mrs. Miano put in place to ensure there's clear database of all Airbnb's operators, as well as mitigate the challenge of conflict of interest between hotel keepers and Airbnb's operators? That one I think answered. Tourism sector has several statutory funds such as Tourism Fund and Tourism Development Fund. I think this was asked and you answered. There is widespread concern in the local hotel industry regarding the impact of current budget cuts on domestic travel and hospitality in Kenya. What steps will be taken to prevent further shutdowns and staff layoffs in the hotel industry? And then the government of Kenya still holds substantial shares in hotels like Hilton and other lodges. If appointed, what can we expect from CS Miano in terms of GOK shareholding in non-performing hotels and in safeguarding public funds? Those that you have answered, you can skip. Yeah, just probably the last one.
Mr. Chairman, on the issue of cost containment and how it can affect the hotel industries, I think we need to rationalize industry, and even for the hoteliers to optimize their operations and maintenance costs, get maybe alternative cheaper ways of O&M, and that way they will continue offering rates that are competitive and affordable. I believe, Mr. Chairman, like we said before, if we are able to sensitize our community on local tourism, and I'll give you just a very quick examples. We have many opportunities to have products together with industries that can appeal to our communities. And because I am a lady and conversant with the chamas, we can have products that those chamas can uptake, get away from the traditional meeting in one home and the other in a merry-go-round and buying hot pots and all that. Maybe that cost, if there is a product